Welcome, dear listener, to a journey through time. A journey where we explore not only the clash of swords and the roar of cannons, but also the quiet yet relentless hum of computers at war. Today, we tell the story of humanity's long, winding road from ancient battles to the age of cyber wars. This is the tale of strategy, of bravery and fear, of loss and progress, a tale of how warfare has evolved, shaping our societies and our souls in ways both seen and unseen. Long, long ago, before the hum of modern machinery and the glow of digital screens, our ancestors settled disputes on vast open fields. Imagine a time when the world was a patchwork of small villages and emerging kingdoms. Here, conflict was not just a matter of survival. It was a rite of passage, a test of strength and spirit. In ancient times, warfare was raw and personal. It was fought by men and women with little more than the weapons they could craft from stone, wood, and metal. Battles were decided by the courage of a few brave souls and the wisdom of a wise leader. These early warriors did not have armies of thousands. They had the support of their kin, their traditions, and an unyielding resolve to protect what was theirs. Imagine a scene set in a sunlit valley where tribes gather around a crackling fire. Here, elders recount tales of past glories and warn of looming threats. Their words carry the weight of centuries of experience, and in those moments, young warriors listen intently, eager to learn the art of combat and honor. They learn that every clash, every charge, is not only a battle against an enemy, but a dance with destiny. In these early conflicts, honor and courage were the twin pillars of warfare. The warriors believed that their actions on the battlefield echoed in the afterlife, and so they fought, not just to win, but to uphold a legacy. These ancient skirmishes were intimate affairs, each strike and parry imbued with meaning, each wound a testament to sacrifice. Even in these primitive times, leaders emerged who were more than brute fighters. They were tacticians, learning to outsmart their enemies rather than overpower them. They realized that the strength of a well-placed formation could overcome a larger, less organized force. With this understanding, the seeds of military strategy were sown. Small groups would use the terrain to their advantage, hiding in forests or behind hills, and then launching sudden, decisive attacks. It is said that in many ancient battles, the cleverness of strategy was the difference between victory and defeat. Such lessons would echo through the ages, laying the groundwork for armies that would one day stretch across continents. As time passed, the simple conflicts of early tribes gave way to larger, more organized wars. Empires rose, and with them, the complexity of battle. From the grand fields of ancient Mesopotamia to the dusty plains of Greece and Rome, warfare began to take on forms that were as much about cunning and logistics as they were about bravery. In the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, where the first cities took shape along the banks of mighty rivers, armies emerged that were organized and relentless. Here, rulers such as Sargon and Hammurabi built armies to secure trade routes, expand territories, and establish laws that governed not just the battlefield, but the everyday lives of their people. Across the river in ancient Egypt, pharaohs ruled not only as divine kings, but as military commanders. They built grand armies equipped with chariots, archers, and infantry. The famous battles along the Nile were as much about defending sacred lands as they were about asserting the pharaoh's divine right to rule. Every clash with their enemies was a performance of might, a demonstration of order against chaos. Perhaps one of the most influential innovations in military history came from the ancient Greeks. The invention of the phalanx, a dense, rectangular formation of heavily armed infantry, changed the very nature of warfare. In this tight formation, soldiers locked shields together and advanced as one unstoppable unit. The phalanx was not just a tactic, it was a symbol of unity and discipline. Leaders like Alexander the Great took this strategy to new heights, conquering vast territories and spreading Greek culture far and wide. His campaigns, fueled by a blend of genius and audacity, remain legendary. With each battle, the phalanx proved that unity and well-coordinated strategy could triumph over sheer numbers. Following closely in the footsteps of Greek innovations, the Roman Empire transformed warfare into an art form. Roman legions were known for their discipline, organization, and relentless efficiency. Soldiers were not only fighters but also engineers and builders, creating fortifications and roads that would help secure the vast expanse of the empire. The Romans understood that warfare was as much about logistics as it was about combat. They built supply lines, organized military camps, and developed tactics that could adapt to any enemy. Their victories were celebrated not only for their immediate gains, but for the lasting impact they had on governance, law, and the very structure of civilization. As the Roman Empire declined, a new era of warfare emerged in the medieval period, a time of castles, knights, and chivalry. The battlefields of this age were both brutal and beautiful, filled with the clash of steel and the cries of warriors who believed in honor and destiny. In medieval Europe, the image of the knight riding a noble steed has become an enduring symbol of both courage and chivalry. These warriors, clad in shining armor, followed a strict code of honor. They fought for their lords, for justice, and sometimes for the love of a fair maiden. Yet, beneath the gleam of polished metal lay a harsh reality. Medieval warfare was savage and unpredictable. The heavy cavalry of knights was a formidable force. Charging into battle with lances held high, they could break enemy lines and turn the tide of a conflict in mere moments. But the battlefield was not solely the domain of knights. Infantry soldiers, archers, and crossbowmen played vital roles. The tension between honor and survival often defined the medieval clash as alliances shifted and feudal loyalties were tested. No discussion of medieval warfare is complete without mentioning castles. These towering fortresses were the keys to power and defense in a turbulent era. Built high on rocky outcrops or nestled in strategic valleys, castles served as both strongholds and symbols of authority. They were places of refuge for the nobility and deadly traps for invaders. Siege warfare became a critical part of medieval conflicts. Armies would surround castles, cutting off supplies and bombarding walls with trebuchets and catapults. The ingenuity of both defenders and attackers during these sieges is a testament to the evolving nature of war. Strategies were honed, and the very architecture of fortification was reimagined as rulers sought to protect their lands from a relentless tide of conflict. Beyond the physical destruction, medieval warfare left deep scars on the minds of those who fought and lived through it. The constant threat of violence, the loss of family and community, and the harsh realities of feudal life bred a culture steeped in both valor and despair. Stories of heroism were interwoven with tales of treachery, and the very notion of honor was often blurred by the need for survival. In the quiet moments after a fierce battle, as the wounded were tended to and the fallen were mourned, the survivors grappled with the heavy burden of what they had witnessed. It is said that even the mightiest knights could not escape the shadows of war, as the echoes of clashing swords and the cries of the fallen haunted their dreams. As centuries turned, the face of warfare began to change in ways that few could have imagined. The dawn of the Industrial Revolution brought with it machines that reshaped not only factories and cities, but also the nature of conflict. The battles of the past, fought with handcrafted weapons and simple formations, gave way to a new era of mechanized warfare. In the 19th century, The invention of rifled muskets and artillery dramatically altered the battlefield. Suddenly, distance no longer offered complete safety, and the power of explosive shells transformed siege warfare into a deadly game of strategy and precision. Soldiers found themselves facing foes who could strike from afar, and commanders had to rethink tactics that had remained unchanged for centuries. The American Civil War, for example, was one of the first conflicts where technology and industrial might played a decisive role. Innovations such as the telegraph, ironclad, warships, and more accurate firearms demonstrated that modern war was a force to be reckoned with. The battlefield expanded from mere fields and fortresses to networks of railways and supply lines that enabled the rapid movement of troops and materials. No period better exemplifies the leap into modern warfare than World War I. Known as the Great War, it was a conflict that introduced new horrors and new technologies. Trench warfare, chemical weapons, and massive artillery barrages created a landscape of devastation unlike anything seen before. Soldiers dug in deep, not only in the trenches, but also in their hearts, as the constant barrage of violence left deep scars that would shape the course of history. The psychological toll was immense. Men who once marched with hope and pride now trudged through muddy trenches, burdened by the weight of constant fear and loss. The war gave rise to new forms of psychological trauma, what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder, and forced societies to confront the human cost of modern conflict. After the devastation of World War I, the world sought to rebuild and learn from the mistakes of the past. New military theories emerged, emphasizing mobility, combined arms tactics, and the integration of technology. Yet, as nations rebuilt, another storm was brewing on the horizon, a storm that would once again change the very nature of warfare. World War II was a turning point in the evolution of warfare, a conflict that combined the best of human ingenuity with the worst of human cruelty. As the world plunged into darkness, leaders and soldiers alike were forced to confront the key realities of industrialized conflict and the birth of weapons that could change the course of history. From the beaches of Normandy to the deserts of North Africa, World War II was fought on a global scale. It was a war of extremes, a battle between totalitarian regimes and the forces of freedom, between mechanized armies and civilians caught in the crossfire. The scale of the conflict was unprecedented, and the innovations that emerged during these years would forever alter the nature of warfare. The introduction of tanks, aircraft, and advanced naval vessels reshaped the battlefield. Air raids and strategic bombings became common, and the ability to strike at an enemy's infrastructure from the skies added a new dimension to the art of war. Each advancement brought with it the promise of victory, but also the grim possibility of total destruction. Perhaps the most profound change in the history of warfare came with the advent of nuclear weapons. In a matter of seconds, the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki transformed the world's understanding of power and destruction. The nuclear age was born, a time when the threat of annihilation hung over every nation like a dark cloud. The psychological impact of nuclear weapons was enormous. Leaders and citizens alike began to grasp the terrifying potential of these weapons, and a new kind of warfare emerged, one that was not fought on traditional battlefields, but in the realm of deterrence and strategic brinkmanship. The Cold War that followed would be defined by the constant, silent threat of nuclear war, influencing political decisions and cultural attitudes for decades to come. In the aftermath of World War II, societies around the world were left to pick up the pieces. The scars of battle were not only physical, but also deeply emotional. Veterans returned home with memories that haunted them, while civilians struggled to rebuild their lives in a world forever altered by conflict. This period saw the birth of international organizations and treaties designed to prevent future wars, a recognition that the old ways of conflict could no longer be allowed to dictate the future of humanity. As the world moved into the latter half of the 20th century, a new kind of battle emerged, one fought not on the fields of Europe or the islands of the Pacific, but in the shadows of espionage, propaganda, and technological competition. This was the Cold War, a period defined by a race for technological supremacy and the constant fear of nuclear annihilation. During the Cold War, the world was divided into two major camps. On one side were nations committed to the ideas of democracy and capitalism, and on the other were those bound by the principles of communism and state control. This ideological divide fueled a global arms race, with each side striving to outdo the other in military might and technological innovation. It was not only tanks and missiles that were at stake. The battle was also fought in the realms of information and culture. The power of media, propaganda, and covert operations became essential tools for winning hearts and minds. In this age, warfare extended into every aspect of society, from education and art to everyday conversations. No era of modern conflict can overlook the role of the intelligence officer. In the shadows of the Cold War, spies became the unseen soldiers of the day. They gathered secret information, influenced political leaders, and orchestrated covert missions that could turn the tide of international politics. Their stories, often hidden from public view, remind us that warfare is not only fought on the battlefield but also in the corridors of power and the networks of information. As computers and digital technologies emerged, they began to reshape every aspect of modern life, including warfare. The ability to store and process vast amounts of data changed how military operations were planned and executed. New forms of communication, reconnaissance, and even encryption laid the groundwork for the next major revolution in conflict. The Cold War saw the early signs of what would later become cyber warfare. It began with a focus on signal intelligence and electronic espionage. Governments and military organizations started to realize that information itself could be a weapon, a notion that would become central in the decades to follow. Now, dear listener, we arrive at the present, a world where the battleground is no longer defined solely by physical space but by streams of data, virtual networks, and digital fortresses. In today's era, conflict takes on a new form: cyber warfare. This is a realm where the lines between peace and battle blur, and where the weapons are code, viruses, and relentless streams of data. Cyber warfare is the use of digital technologies to attack or defend against the infrastructures that underpin modern society. In this new domain, nations, organizations, and even individuals can wage war through computers and networks. The targets can range from financial institutions and power grids to military systems and personal data. Imagine a world where a single line of malicious code can bring an entire city's infrastructure to a standstill. In such a world, the battleground is invisible but ever present. Cyber warriors, much like the spies of the Cold War, operate in secrecy, often under the cover of anonymity. Their attacks can be swift and devastating, leaving chaos in their wake without a single bullet fired. In the realm of cyber warfare, hackers are the new soldiers. They wield tools like viruses, worms, ransomware, and spyware, using them to infiltrate, disrupt, and steal. Firewalls, encryption, and sophisticated algorithms serve as the defenses that protect against these digital incursions. Both sides, in this silent war, are in a constant race, innovating and countering, attacking and defending. The battleground now is a maze of networks, servers, and digital devices. Unlike traditional warfare, where a battle is fought on a defined field, cyber warfare is global and borderless. A hack launched in one country can ripple out to affect millions across the globe. showcasing the immense power and reach of this modern form of conflict. While the devastation of ancient battles was marked by visible scars and deep wounds, the harm caused by cyber attacks is often unseen. The psychological impact, however, can be just as profound. When personal data is stolen or critical systems are brought down by a single cyber assault, the sense of security that modern societies rely on is shattered. People begin to question the safety of their digital lives, their privacy, and even the reliability of the institutions they depend on. In a world increasingly connected by technology, the fear of cyber warfare can breed anxiety and mistrust. The notion that a faceless adversary could compromise our most vital systems, healthcare, banking, transportation, creates a persistent undercurrent of unease. This psychological strain is one of the many reasons why the evolution of warfare has not only transformed our battlefields but also our everyday lives. Throughout the ages, the nature of warfare has mirrored the evolution of society itself. From the ancient rituals of battle to the calculated strikes of modern cyber attacks, the art of war has always been intertwined with the human condition. As we examine the impacts of conflict, it is essential to consider not only the physical destruction, but also the deep, lasting scars on our minds and communities. Warfare has always been a powerful force for change. Empires have risen and fallen, cultures have been blended or erased, and societies have been reshaped by the events of conflict. In every era, the consequences of battle ripple outwards, influencing politics, economics, and even art and literature. In ancient times, victories in battle often brought with them the spread of language, religion, and customs. Conquered peoples would assimilate into the culture of their victors, leading to a fusion of traditions that still echoes in our modern world. Yet these changes came at a high price. Families were torn apart, cities were razed, and generations were left to rebuild from the ruins. During the medieval period, the codes of chivalry and honor emerged partly as a response to the brutality of war. These ideals provided a moral framework for the otherwise chaotic nature of conflict, influencing not only the battlefield but also the development of laws and societal norms. However, the same wars that birthed these ideals also left communities scarred and populations depleted. In the modern era, warfare's societal impact has grown even more complex. Industrial conflicts and global wars have led to the reorganization of entire economies, the redrawing of national boundaries, and even the rethinking of international law. Today, the specter of cyber warfare challenges our very concept of national security and personal freedom, forcing us to consider how we protect our communities in an increasingly digital world. Warfare leaves a deep imprint on the human soul. In every era, those who have fought in battles or lived under the shadow of conflict carry with them memories of loss, fear, and sacrifice. The warriors of old, who charged into battle with unwavering courage, also carried the heavy burden of what they had witnessed. Their bravery was often tempered by sorrow, a reminder that even the most heroic acts can lead to tragic consequences. Modern soldiers and civilians, too, experience the psychological scars of warfare. The invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety have become common in a world where the threat of violence, whether physical or digital, is always near. As we witness the evolution from hand-to-hand combat to remote cyber attacks, we also see an evolution in how trauma is experienced and understood. The face of war may have changed, but its effects on the human mind remain profound and deeply personal. Despite the destruction and sorrow that accompany war, history also shows us how humanity finds ways to rebuild and create meaning from chaos. Artists, writers, and musicians have long drawn on the experiences of conflict to produce works that capture the resilience of the human spirit. From epic poems and grand symphonies to modern films and digital art, the story of warfare has inspired countless creative expressions that remind us of our shared humanity. This ability to find hope even in the darkest times is a recurring theme in the evolution of warfare. Whether it was the rebuilding of ancient cities, the revival of culture after medieval sieges, or the development of international cooperation in the modern era, humanity has always sought to transform the lessons of conflict into the promise of a better future. Standing at the crossroads of history and technology, we now look to the future. A future where the nature of warfare may continue to evolve in ways that we can barely imagine. As we navigate the complexities of the digital age, we must ask ourselves, what lies ahead for the art of conflict? In the coming years, we may see an even greater convergence between traditional military power and digital prowess. Autonomous drones, artificial intelligence, and advanced robotics are already beginning to change the face of modern warfare. These technologies promise to reduce human casualties on one side, but raise ethical questions about the role of humans in making life-and-death decisions on the battlefield. Imagine a future where battles are fought by fleets of unmanned vehicles and cyber operatives, where strategy is defined not only by physical strength but also by the ability to harness the power of data. This convergence may well be the next great leap in the evolution of warfare, one that challenges us to rethink what it means to be a soldier and what it means to defend our societies. As technology reshapes the battlefield, it also transforms the nature of psychological warfare. In the digital age, the mind becomes a primary target. Social media, fake news, and deep fakes can be deployed as tools of influence, manipulating public opinion and sowing seeds of discord. The battle for hearts and minds is now fought in the virtual realm, where every click, like, and share can be weaponized. The challenge for the future will be to build resilience against these new forms of psychological manipulation. As we have learned from the history of warfare, the impact on society and the human psyche is profound. Only by understanding these effects can we hope to forge a path forward, one that balances security with freedom and innovation with caution. Despite the challenges that lie ahead, the history of warfare also teaches us an important lesson: the resilience of the human spirit. Across the ages, even in the face of overwhelming odds and unimaginable loss, people have found ways to rebuild, to learn, and to move forward. The evolution of warfare is not merely a story of destruction. It is also a story of growth, innovation, and the unyielding drive for progress. As we look to the future, let us remember that every new challenge brings with it an opportunity, a chance, to build a world where the lessons of the past guide us to a more secure and compassionate future. Before we close our journey today, I invite you to take a moment of reflection. Think about the ways in which conflict has shaped the world we live in, from the ancient warriors who fought for honor and survival, to the modern defenders of our digital realm. Each chapter of this long history has left an indelible mark on our collective memory, influencing our art, our laws, and the very fabric of our societies. In the quiet moments of reflection, we may find ourselves questioning the nature of progress. Has warfare, in all its evolving forms, brought us closer to understanding what it means to be human? Or has it driven us into cycles of destruction that we can barely escape? These are questions without easy answers, yet they form the heart of our exploration, a reminder that every era, every battle is a step on a path that is both uncertain and filled with promise. One of the most enduring lessons of our journey is that peace is a hard-won treasure. The struggles and sacrifices of countless individuals have forged the foundations upon which modern society is built. Every advancement in strategy, every technological leap has come at a price that is often measured in lives, in dreams deferred, and in the scars that linger long after the battle is over. Yet, in acknowledging that price, we also recognize the strength it takes to rebuild. The same human spirit that endures the horrors of war is the spirit that can envision a future of understanding, cooperation, and hope. It is a spirit that refuses to be defined solely by conflict, choosing instead to look to the future with determination and compassion. As we stand on the threshold of an uncertain future, let this story be a call to learn from the past. The evolution of warfare is not merely a chronicle of human conflict, it is a testament to our capacity for change. By understanding the lessons of ancient battles, medieval sieges, industrial conflicts, and digital wars, we can better navigate the challenges of our own time. Remember, the story of warfare is also a story of innovation, of courage, and of the relentless quest for progress. It is a story that belongs not just to historians or soldiers, but to all of us who dream of a better tomorrow. Today, we have traveled across centuries and continents, from the dusty battlegrounds of ancient empires to the invisible networks of cyber warfare. We have seen how technology has transformed the ways in which battles are fought, how strategies have evolved from the simple formations of early warriors to the sophisticated codes of digital defenders, and how the human heart has been both hardened by conflict and softened by the hope of peace. This journey is not just about the evolution of warfare. It is about the evolution of humanity itself. With each passing era, we have seen the triumph of innovation over destruction, of unity over division, and of hope over despair. Yet, the lessons of the past remind us that progress comes with responsibility. As we advance into the future, we must be ever mindful of the psychological and societal costs of conflict, striving always to learn, to adapt, and to build a world where the horrors of war are not repeated. So let us honor the memory of those who fought in ancient fields and those who defend our modern digital lives. Let us remember that while the face of warfare may change, the underlying human quest for security, dignity, and hope remains eternal. Thank you for joining me on this long, winding journey through the evolution of warfare, a journey that reminds us of our past, challenges us in our present, and lights the way for a future where peace might yet prevail.